My phone lit up at exactly 7:43 p.m. with Emily's text. At a meeting with clients. I'll be late. Don't wait up. I stared at the message from my position on our threadbare couch, surrounded by design mock-ups for a local pizza joint's rebrand. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was designing advertisements for authentic Italian cuisine, while my wife served up lies colder than day-old marinara. "Does the client like my shirt?" I texted back, because sarcasm is my default setting when life gets weird. No response. Typical. I'm Jake Morrison, 34 years old, graphic designer, and apparently the last guy in upstate New York who still believes marriage vows mean something. Our house sits in Millbrook Falls, one of those post-industrial river cities where the American dream came to fade sometime around 1987, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone's business, except when it comes to the stuff that actually matters. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Tyler, my best friend since high school and current bartender at Chez Laurent, the trendy downtown restaurant where Emily claimed to be conducting her client meeting. The first photo hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. Emily, my wife of 6 years, leaning across a candlelit table, her hand resting on some guy's wrist. Her laugh frozen in digital amber, the same laugh that used to make my day but hadn't been directed at me in months. Another ping, another photo. This one showed her feeding the guy a bite of dessert, intimate as lovers, comfortable as conspirators. The man was tall, well-dressed, with the kind of artificially white smile that screamed real estate developer or pharmaceutical sales. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Photo 3, Emily's hand on his thigh. Photo 4, his arm around her shoulders. Photo 5, a kiss that lasted long enough for Tyler to capture it from 3 different angles. I set the phone down and walked to our kitchen window, staring out at the November darkness settling over our neighborhood like a burial shroud. The house felt different now, contaminated by knowledge I couldn't unknow. 6 years of marriage, 3 years of couples therapy, 18 months of her complaints about my lack of ambition and emotional unavailability. All leading to this moment, sitting alone in our living room while she played house with some stranger. My phone rang. Tyler. "Jake, man, I'm sorry, I didn't want to send those, but I figured you needed to know." "Who is he?" My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "Victor Castellano, real estate hotshot, drives a Tesla, wears suits that cost more than your truck. They've been here 3 times in the past 2 weeks. 3 times. Yeah. And Jake? They're not talking business, unless business involves playing footsie under the table and sharing dessert like teenagers." I thanked Tyler and hung up, then scrolled through the photos again. Each image told the same story. My wife was having an affair and she wasn't even trying to hide it. The arrogance was breathtaking. Emily's voice echoed from the answering machine, which had apparently been recording messages while I stared at the evidence of her betrayal. I hit play. "Jake, honey, the meeting's running long. These clients are really demanding, but the commission will be worth it. Love you." Beep. "Me again. We're moving to dessert now. Don't wait up, okay? I might be really late." Beep. "Jake, are you there? Pick up the phone. I wanted to hear your voice. Call me back." The last message had a different tone. Panic, maybe, or guilt finally catching up to her. I didn't call back. Instead, I fired up my computer and got to work. 6 years in graphic design had taught me the power of visual storytelling, and I had a story to tell. I imported Tyler's photos, arranged them chronologically, and added timestamps. Then I wrote a simple caption: Emily Morrison's client meeting, November 15th, 7:30, 10:45 p.m. I printed 20 copies on high-quality photo paper. By midnight, I had addressed envelopes to Emily's office, her parents, her sister, 3 of her closest friends, and yes, even Martha Hendricks, president of our homeowners association and the biggest gossip in a 10-mile radius. Each envelope contained the photo collection and a handwritten note. "Your meeting is over. My client was honesty. Turns out you lost them both." I drove through the sleeping city, dropping envelopes in mailboxes like a twisted postal worker delivering bad news. The November air bit at my face through the truck's open window, but I felt strangely warm, energized by purpose. The last stop was Emily's office building. I taped an envelope to her private parking spot with a sticky note, "For your review and approval." When I got home, Emily's car wasn't in the driveway yet. I changed the locks. Emily came home at 2:17 a.m. to find her key didn't work. I watched from the upstairs bedroom window as she stood on our front porch, confusion morphing into panic as she tried the key again and again. She knocked softly at first, then louder, then pounded on the door as if trying to rouse someone inside. "Jake! Jake! Open the door! My key isn't working!" I didn't answer. She tried calling my phone. I watched it light up on the nightstand, but didn't reach for it. Some conversations are better had in daylight when the lies are easier to spot. Finally, she gave up and drove away, probably to her sister's house, or maybe straight to Victor's place. I didn't much care which. I spent the rest of the night loading Emily's most prized possessions into my truck, her collection of marketing awards, her expensive exercise equipment, her designer clothes, and the antique jewelry box her grandmother had left her. Everything that mattered to her, everything that defined her identity as a successful, sophisticated woman. At dawn, I drove to her parents' house in the suburbs and arranged everything on their front lawn like the world's most passive-aggressive yard sale. I left a sign, "Free to good home, slightly used marriage materials." Then I went home and waited. My phone started ringing at 8:30 a.m. Emily's mother. "Jake, what in God's name is going on? Emily's things are all over our lawn and we got the strangest package in the mail with photos." I hung up. Emily called next, her voice shaking with rage and humiliation. "Jake, you bastard, how could you do this to me? Those photos. Where did you get those photos?" "Client meeting ran late, huh?" I said. "Must have been some dessert." "It's not what it looks like. I can explain everything." "I'm sure you can. You always were creative with the truth." "Jake, please, let me come home. We need to talk." "We're past talking, Em. We're into the showing phase now. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, and I've got plenty of both." I hung up and unplugged the landline. By noon, my phone had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Emily's panic was escalating beautifully. Her carefully constructed image was crumbling in real time, and she couldn't control the narrative. Tyler showed up around 2 with coffee and sandwiches. "You look like hell," he said, settling into the kitchen chair Emily used to claim as hers. "Feel worse, but also better. It's complicated. The whole town's talking. Martha Hendricks has been calling everyone she knows. Emily's sister drove by here 3 times, and word is Victor got some interesting mail at his office, too." I had forgotten about Victor's envelope. "Really?" His secretary opened it thinking it was business correspondence. Apparently, she screamed so loud the whole office came running. We sat in comfortable silence, eating sandwiches and watching the neighborhood through the kitchen window. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that the Morrison marriage had just become the best entertainment Millbrook Falls had seen since the mayor got caught embezzling from the Christmas fund. "You know she's going to fight back," Tyler said eventually. "Emily doesn't take humiliation well. Let her fight. I'm done being the good guy. What's your next move?" I smiled, and Tyler actually flinched a little. Apparently, my new expression was more unsettling than I realized. "I'm going to give the people what they want," I said. "A show." Emily launched her counterattack on Monday morning with the precision of a military campaign and the subtlety of a sledgehammer. I learned about it from my friend Marcus, who worked in IT at Emily's marketing firm, Pinnacle Creative Solutions. He called me during his lunch break, voice tight with concern. "Jake, man, you need to know what Emily's telling people. She's got everyone convinced you're having some kind of breakdown." "What kind of breakdown?" "The dangerous kind. She's saying you've been paranoid for months, accusing her of cheating without evidence, making threats. She showed up to work this morning crying, telling everyone you changed the locks and threw her out in the middle of the night. She left out the part about her boyfriend. That's just it. She's denying everything. Says those photos were doctored, that you hired someone to create fake evidence because you're mentally unstable and obsessed with destroying her career. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Emily was smarter than I'd given her credit for. She was turning my evidence into proof of my instability, painting herself as the victim of an unhinged husband's jealous delusions. People are buying it? Some are. She's got Lana backing her up, her boss. Lana's telling everyone Emily's been working late on a huge client presentation, that the stress has been enormous. And Monica's been spreading the word that you've always been controlling and paranoid. Monica, Emily's best friend since college, her maid of honor, the woman who'd sat at our kitchen table 100 times talking about her own relationship problems. Now she was part of Emily's damage control team. Thanks for the heads up, Marcus. Jake, be careful. Emily's not just defending herself. She's going on offense. She's talking about restraining orders and mental health interventions. She wants you painted as the crazy ex-husband before this goes any further. After Marcus hung up, I sat in my home office staring at the wall of design awards I'd won over the years. 15 years of building a reputation as a reliable, creative professional. And Emily was trying to tear it down with whispered concerns about my mental state. The genius of her strategy was obvious. Even if people didn't fully believe her, they'd remember the doubt. Once someone plants the seed that you might be unstable, every passionate defense of your position just waters that seed. But Emily had made one crucial mistake. She assumed I'd fight back the same way she was fighting, with words, rumors, and social manipulation. She was wrong. I spent Monday afternoon making phone calls and Tuesday morning visiting old clients. By Wednesday, I had what I needed. 3 new freelance contracts, including a big one with Riverside Casino's marketing department. The kind of work that proved I was not only sane, but thriving professionally. More importantly, the casino job gave me access to their event photography services. Thursday evening, I attended the monthly Millbrook Business Association mixer at the Riverside Hotel. Emily would be there. She never missed a networking opportunity, and so would Victor. According to my research, he was a member of the association and a regular at their events. I arrived early and positioned myself near the bar, nursing a beer and making small talk with other business owners. When Emily walked in with Lana, I felt a familiar pang of attraction followed immediately by disgust. She looked stunning, as always, in a black dress that probably cost more than my truck payment. Her smile was perfect, her laugh musical, her performance flawless. Victor arrived 20 minutes later, and I watched them carefully avoid eye contact while somehow ending up in adjacent conversations. They were good at this, professional, discreet, giving no obvious signs of their connection. But I knew what to look for now. The way Emily's posture changed when Victor was nearby. The subtle glances, the synchronized bathroom breaks, the careful choreography of 2 people pretending not to know each other intimately. I waited until they thought they were being clever, slipping out to the hotel's outdoor terrace for what looked like a private business conversation. Then I followed, staying in the shadows near the building's corner. "Can't keep doing this," Emily was saying, her voice tight with stress. "Jake's losing his mind. He put my things on my parents' lawn, Victor. My neighbors saw everything." "He's desperate," Victor replied, his voice smooth and confident. "Desperate men make mistakes. Let him dig his own grave. You don't understand. He's got photos of us. Good photos. Tyler must have been watching us." "So what? Photos can be explained. Business meetings, networking, professional relationships. Your husband's paranoid fantasies aren't evidence of anything except his own instability." Emily laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You sound like Lana." "Lana's right. We stick to the story, let Jake self-destruct, and in 6 months this will all be forgotten. You'll be divorced, I'll be single again, and we can stop sneaking around." "And if Jake doesn't self-destruct?" Victor's pause was telling. Then we help him along. I had heard enough. I also had everything recorded on my phone, which I'd been holding in my jacket pocket with the voice memo app running. As I walked back toward the hotel entrance, I was already planning my next move. Emily wanted to play the victim. Victor wanted to help me self-destruct. Time to give them both exactly what they were asking for. Friday morning brought the first real snow of the season and an email that changed everything. The message was from Detective Ray Hall of the Millbrook Falls Police Department, requesting a meeting to discuss concerns raised by community members regarding recent incidents. Emily had made good on her threat. She was trying to get me arrested. I called Detective Hall and arranged to meet him at the station that afternoon. Then I spent the morning preparing for what would either be the end of my freedom or the beginning of Emily's downfall. Detective Hall was a thin, tired-looking man in his 50s who'd probably seen every kind of domestic drama the city had to offer. He invited me into a small conference room and offered coffee, which I accepted because my hands needed something to do. Mr. Morrison, I'll be direct. Your wife has expressed concerns about your recent behavior. She's worried you might be having some kind of mental health crisis. What kind of concerns? Harassment, stalking, destruction of property, public humiliation. She says you've been following her, taking photographs, and distributing private images without consent. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared and slid it across the table. Detective, everything in that folder is documentation of my wife's adultery. Photos taken in public places, records of her lies about her whereabouts, and evidence that she's been conducting an affair while claiming to be at business meetings. Hall opened the folder and examined the contents. His expression didn't change, but I could see him processing the timeline, the evidence, the careful documentation. These photos were taken without your wife's knowledge? They were taken by a friend who works at the restaurant where my wife claimed to be conducting business meetings. He was concerned about what he was witnessing and thought I should know. And you distributed these images to quite a few people. I shared evidence of my wife's infidelity with our families and close friends. I didn't post them online, sell them to tabloids, or distribute them to strangers. I informed the people who care about our marriage that our marriage was over. Hall studied me carefully. Your wife says you've been making threats. I've been making promises. There's a difference. What kind of promises? I leaned back in my chair, meeting his gaze steadily. That I won't be taken for a fool anymore. That actions have consequences. That if someone wants to destroy my marriage and my reputation, they'd better be prepared for me to defend both. That sounds like a threat to me. Then you haven't been listening carefully enough. Hall closed the folder and pushed it back toward me. Mr. Morrison, I'm going to give you some free advice. Whatever you're planning, don't. Divorce is ugly enough without adding criminal charges to the mix. Detective, I'm a graphic designer, not a criminal. I create visual narratives for a living. I'm very good at my job. Something in my tone made him look at me more carefully. What does that mean? It means I know how to tell a story that people will remember. I left the police station with no charges filed and a clear understanding that Detective Hall would be watching me closely. That was fine. I wanted witnesses for what came next. Saturday evening was the opening of the new Riverside Gallery's first exhibition. Millbrook Faces, a Community Portrait. Local photographers had submitted images celebrating the people and places that made our city unique. Emily would be there. She never missed cultural events, especially ones that might generate business contacts. Victor would probably attend too. Real estate developers loved being seen at art openings. I arrived early and found the gallery owner, Sandra Chen, arranging the final displays. Jake, I didn't expect to see you here tonight. Wouldn't miss it. I've always appreciated good photography. Well, you're in for a treat. We've got some amazing work on display. I wandered through the gallery, admiring the legitimate artwork while scouting locations for my own contribution to the evening's entertainment. The main display wall faced the entrance, ensuring that everyone who walked in would see whatever was mounted there. Perfect. Emily arrived at 7:30 with Lana and Monica, her support team flanking her like bodyguards. She looked around nervously, probably expecting me to jump out from behind a sculpture and cause a scene. I disappointed her by staying invisible, blending into the crowd of art lovers and wine drinkers while I waited for Victor to arrive. He showed up at 8 o'clock sharp, impeccably dressed and radiating the kind of confidence that comes from never facing real consequences for your actions. He made a point of not acknowledging Emily's presence, instead focusing his attention on the artwork and the other attendees. At 8:15, I made my move. The gallery's projection system was designed to display information about the artwork, controlled by a tablet mounted near the main entrance. I'd spent 20 minutes earlier in the evening studying the system while pretending to read about the photographers. It took me 30 seconds to connect my phone to the gallery's wireless network and access the projection controls. The first image appeared on the main wall, just as Victor was explaining to a group of potential clients why Millbrook Falls was poised for a renaissance in luxury residential development. It was Tyler's photo of Emily and Victor sharing dessert, enlarged to 6 feet wide and crystal clear in high definition. The room fell silent. The second image showed Emily's hand on Victor's thigh. Someone gasped. The third image was the kiss, captured in perfect detail, impossible to explain away as anything other than what it was. Emily screamed. Victor tried to rush toward the projection system, but I was already there, blocking his access to the controls, while the fourth image, Emily feeding Victor dessert like lovers, filled the wall behind me. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced to the stunned crowd, "I'd like to present my own contribution to tonight's exhibition, Marriage in the Modern Age, a documentary series." Emily was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks as she tried to push through the crowd toward the exit. Lana grabbed her arm, probably trying to minimize the damage, while Monica stood frozen in shock. "These photographs," I continued, my voice carrying clearly through the silent gallery, "were taken at Chez Laurent restaurant during what my wife described to me as client meetings. As you can see, the business being conducted was quite intimate in nature." Victor finally found his voice. "You're insane. This is harassment." "This is truth," I replied, "something you two seem to have trouble with." Detective Hall appeared at my elbow. Apparently, someone had called the police. "Mr. Morrison, that's enough." "You're absolutely right, Detective. It is enough." I disconnected my phone from the projection system, and the images disappeared, leaving only a blank white wall and a room full of people who would never forget what they'd just witnessed. Emily had already fled, probably to her car, probably to anywhere but here. Victor was surrounded by his potential clients, all of whom were looking at him like he'd just been caught stealing from the collection plate. As Detective Hall escorted me toward the exit, I heard Sandra Chen asking someone to please help her figure out how to get the regular programming back on the projection system. "That was quite a show," Hall said once we were outside. "I thought so too." "You realize I could arrest you for this." "For what? Trespassing?" "I was invited. Disrupting a public event?" "I was sharing photography, same as everyone else. Harassment?" "I never spoke to my wife or her boyfriend directly." Hall studied my face in the parking lot's fluorescent lighting. "You're enjoying this?" "Detective, 6 months ago I was a faithful husband who believed his wife when she said she was working late. Tonight, I'm a man who knows exactly where he stands and what he's capable of. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. It's not over, you know. Your wife isn't going to just disappear. I'm counting on it." Emily's counterattack began Monday morning and was more vicious than I'd expected. She hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, she retained Patricia Vance, the most ruthless divorce attorney in the county, a woman who specialized in destroying unfaithful husbands and had never lost a case involving adultery claims. The problem was, Emily wasn't the unfaithful husband. I learned about the legal maneuver from Marcus, who'd overheard Lana on the phone with someone at the law firm. She's claiming emotional abuse, Jake. Says you've been systematically destroying her reputation and mental health. The lawyer thinks she can get a restraining order and maybe even press charges for cyberstalking. Based on what evidence? Based on Saturday night. Emily's got witnesses who saw you humiliate her in public, and she's arguing that the gallery thing was premeditated harassment designed to destroy her career and social standing. I had to admit, it was a smart play. Emily was reframing the narrative again, turning my evidence of her adultery into proof of my abusive behavior. She was the victim of a controlling husband who couldn't accept that their marriage was over. What about Victor? That's the interesting part. He's not backing her up. Word is he's trying to distance himself from the whole situation. His business partners aren't happy about being associated with a public adultery scandal. So Victor was cutting and running, leaving Emily to face the consequences alone. Somehow, that didn't surprise me. Tuesday brought a process server to my door with papers for a temporary restraining order hearing. Emily was asking the court to prohibit me from contacting her, approaching her workplace, or distributing any more images or information about her private life. Wednesday, I met with my own attorney, David Park, a quiet man who specialized in defending people who'd been pushed too far. She's got a case, he told me after reviewing Emily's filing. The gallery incident looks bad, Jake. Even if everything you've said about her affair is true, the way you've handled it makes you look unstable and vindictive. So, what do you recommend? Settle, agree to the restraining order, file for divorce on grounds of adultery, and walk away. You've made your point. Don't let this destroy your life. What if I'm not ready to walk away? David looked at me over his reading glasses. Then you'd better have a very good plan, because Emily's lawyer is going to try to bury you. That evening, I sat in Tyler's bar after closing time, nursing a beer and thinking about my options. The place was empty except for us, the neon beer signs casting red and blue shadows on the worn wooden floor. You could just let it go, Tyler said, wiping down glasses behind the bar. You've already won, in a way. Everyone knows what she did. Her reputation's shot, her boyfriend dumped her, and she's going to lose half her assets in the divorce. It's not about winning anymore. Then what's it about? I thought about that for a long moment, watching the snow fall past the bar's front window. It's about consequences. Emily spent our entire marriage believing she was smarter than me, more sophisticated, more deserving of success and respect. She thought I was just the reliable, boring husband who'd always be there to come home to after her adventures. And now? Now, I want her to understand exactly who she married, and what it costs to underestimate me. Tyler set down the glass he'd been cleaning. Jake, that sounds like... Like what? Like revenge. And revenge has a way of eating people alive. Maybe, or maybe it's just justice served at the right temperature. Thursday morning, I received an unexpected phone call from Monica, Emily's best friend and chief character witness. Jake, we need to talk. I don't think Emily would approve of you calling me. Emily doesn't know. Can you meet me for coffee? Please, it's important. We met at a diner on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where nobody we knew would accidentally spot us together. Monica looked terrible, exhausted, nervous, like she hadn't slept in days. Emily's falling apart, she said without preamble. She's not eating, barely sleeping. She thinks you're going to destroy her completely. She's probably right. Jake, please, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but this has to stop. Emily made a mistake. Emily made a choice, multiple choices over several months, while lying to my face every day. Monica's hands shook as she reached for her coffee cup. There's something you don't know. Something Emily made me promise never to tell anyone. I'm listening. The affair. It wasn't just about Victor. Emily's been unhappy for years, Jake. She felt trapped in the marriage, trapped in this town, trapped in a life that felt too small for her ambitions. So she decided to cheat instead of asking for a divorce? She was afraid. Afraid of hurting you, afraid of the gossip, afraid of starting over. Victor represented everything she thought she wanted: success, sophistication, a way out of Millbrook Falls. And now? Now she realizes she was wrong. Victor abandoned her the minute things got complicated. Her job's in jeopardy because the scandal's affecting the company's reputation. Her parents barely speak to her. She's lost everything, Jake, and she knows it's her own fault. I studied Monica's face, looking for signs of manipulation or deception. All I saw was genuine distress and exhaustion. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm scared of what you're going to do next, and because Emily isn't the only one who made mistakes. What do you mean? Monica's voice dropped to a whisper. I knew about the affair, Jake. I knew for months, and I didn't tell you. I helped her lie to you, covered for her, even gave her advice on how to avoid getting caught. The admission hit me like a physical blow. Monica, who'd sat at our dinner table, who'd attended our anniversary parties, who'd looked me in the eye and asked about my marriage while knowing it was a sham. Why? Because she's my best friend. Because I thought it was just a phase, something she'd get over. Because I was a coward who didn't want to be the one to destroy your marriage. So, you let her do it instead. Monica started crying then, quiet tears that she wiped away with shaking hands. I'm sorry, Jake. I'm so sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that I regret every day that I didn't tell you the truth. I left Monica at the diner and drove home through the early afternoon snow, my mind racing with this new information. Emily's betrayal was one thing. I'd processed that, accepted it, planned my response to it. But Monica's betrayal was different. She'd been my friend too, someone I'd trusted, someone who'd pretended to care about my well-being while helping my wife deceive me. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. Emily would be there with her lawyer, probably with Lana and Monica as character witnesses, ready to paint me as an unstable, vengeful husband who couldn't accept the end of his marriage. They were expecting me to show up defeated, apologetic, ready to agree to their terms and slink away quietly. They were going to be disappointed. Friday morning arrived gray and cold, with the kind of bitter wind that cuts through even the heaviest coat. I dressed carefully for the restraining order hearing: dark suit, conservative tie, the uniform of a responsible, stable citizen. The courthouse was nearly empty at 9 a.m., just a few lawyers and court personnel preparing for the day's proceedings. Emily sat in the front row with Patricia Vance, her hired gun, while Lana and Monica flanked her like bodyguards. She looked fragile, which was probably intentional. Her normally perfect hair was slightly disheveled, her makeup minimal, her clothing conservative and modest. She was playing the part of the traumatized wife, and she was playing it well. Victor was notably absent. Judge Catherine Reeves called the hearing to order and asked Emily's attorney to present her case. Patricia Vance was everything her reputation suggested: sharp, articulate, and utterly ruthless. Your Honor, my client has been subjected to a campaign of harassment and public humiliation by her estranged husband. Mr. Morrison has systematically invaded her privacy, distributed intimate images without consent, and engaged in behavior designed to destroy her reputation and career. She presented the evidence methodically: the photos I'd mailed to Emily's family and friends, the display of Emily's possessions on her parents' lawn, and especially the gallery incident, which she characterized as a premeditated act of public humiliation designed to cause maximum emotional distress. My client fears for her safety, Your Honor. Mr. Morrison's behavior has escalated consistently, and we believe he represents a genuine threat to her well-being. Emily took the stand and delivered a performance worthy of an Academy Award. She described months of increasingly erratic behavior, paranoid accusations, and controlling conduct. She claimed I'd been following her, monitoring her phone and making veiled threats about consequences and justice. "I don't recognize the man I married," she said, her voice breaking at exactly the right moment. "Jake has become someone frightening, someone capable of— I don't know what he might do next." Monica testified next, corroborating Emily's claims about my alleged paranoia and controlling behavior. She described me as increasingly isolated and suspicious, prone to angry outbursts and conspiracy theories about Emily's activities. "He accused Emily of having an affair for months before he had any evidence," Monica lied smoothly. "He seemed obsessed with the idea, like he wanted it to be true so he could justify his behavior." It was a masterful performance, and I could see Judge Reeves taking notes, her expression growing more concerned with each piece of testimony. When my attorney, David Park, cross-examined Emily, he focused on the facts of her affair, the lies she'd told, and the evidence I'd gathered. But Emily was ready for that line of questioning. "I made mistakes in my marriage," she admitted tearfully. "I should have asked for a divorce instead of seeking comfort elsewhere." But Jake's response has been completely disproportionate and frankly terrifying. She was good. She was admitting to the affair while making it seem like a minor indiscretion compared to my campaign of terror. Then it was my turn to testify. David had prepared me for this moment, coaching me on how to appear reasonable and remorseful, how to express regret for my actions while defending my right to expose my wife's adultery. But as I sat in the witness chair, looking out at Emily and her team of supporters, I realized I didn't want to appear reasonable. I wanted to tell the truth. "Your Honor," I began, my voice steady and clear, "my wife is absolutely right about one thing. She doesn't recognize the man she married. Neither do I." Judge Reeves looked up from her notes, probably expecting an apology or expression of remorse. "6 months ago, I was a man who believed in the sanctity of marriage, the importance of trust, and the value of loyalty. I was the kind of person who assumed the best about people, who gave second chances, who tried to solve problems through communication and compromise." I looked directly at Emily, who was staring at me with growing alarm. "That man is gone, Your Honor. He passed away the night I received photos of my wife feeding dessert to her lover while telling me she was in a business meeting." Patricia Vance objected, claiming I was making a speech rather than answering questions, but Judge Reeves waved her off. "Continue, Mr. Morrison. The man sitting here today is someone different, someone who understands that actions have consequences, that trust once broken can't be repaired with apologies, and that sometimes the only appropriate response to betrayal is proportional retaliation." I could feel the tension in the courtroom ratcheting up, everyone sensing that this wasn't going according to script. "My wife wants this court to believe that I'm unstable, that my response to her adultery was excessive and dangerous. But I haven't broken any laws, Your Honor. I haven't threatened anyone with violence. I haven't destroyed property or committed fraud or engaged in stalking." "What have you done, Mr. Morrison?" Judge Reeves asked. "I've told the truth. I've shared evidence of my wife's infidelity with people who had a right to know. I've refused to be quiet, cooperative, and ashamed while she rewrote the story of our marriage to make herself the victim." I stood up, ignoring David's frantic gestures for me to sit down. "Your Honor, my wife is asking you to issue a restraining order that would prevent me from defending myself against her lies. She wants legal protection for her reputation while she continues to destroy mine." "Mr. Morrison, please sit down." "I will, Your Honor. But first, I want to present some evidence that wasn't included in my wife's petition." I pulled out my phone and activated the voice recording I'd made outside the hotel during the business association mixer. Emily's voice filled the courtroom. "You don't understand. He's got photos of us. Good photos. Tyler must have been watching us." Victor's response was equally clear. "So what? Photos can be explained. Business meetings, networking, professional relationships. Your husband's paranoid fantasies aren't evidence of anything except his own instability." And then the most damning exchange. Emily asking what would happen if I didn't self-destruct, and Victor's chilling response, "Then we help him along." The courtroom was silent as the recording ended. Judge Reeves looked from me to Emily to the lawyers, her expression unreadable. "Mrs. Morrison, did you have this conversation with Mr. Castellano?" Emily's carefully constructed composure finally cracked. "It's not. That's taken out of context. We were just what, Mrs. Morrison? Just discussing how to help your husband self-destruct?" Patricia Vance was on her feet, objecting to the admissibility of the recording, claiming it was obtained illegally. But the damage was done. Emily's credibility was shattered, her victim narrative destroyed by her own words. Judge Reeves called a recess, and I watched Emily huddle with her lawyer and supporters, their confident demeanor replaced by panic and desperation. When court reconvened, Judge Reeves delivered her decision. "I find myself in an unusual position," she began. "Mrs. Morrison has clearly engaged in marital infidelity and has been less than truthful about both the extent of that infidelity and her response to her husband's discovery of it." Emily's face went pale. However, Mr. Morrison's response, while understandable, has crossed the line from legitimate self-defense into what can only be characterized as calculated revenge. My heart sank. Therefore, I am issuing a mutual restraining order. Both parties are prohibited from contacting each other except through their attorneys, from approaching each other's residences or workplaces, and from making any further public statements about this matter. It wasn't the victory Emily had wanted, but it wasn't the vindication I'd hoped for either. As the courtroom emptied, Emily approached me one last time, ignoring the restraining order that wouldn't take effect for another hour. "Are you satisfied now?" she asked, her voice hollow. "You've destroyed everything. My job, my reputation, my relationships with my family. Was it worth it?" I looked at her, really looked at her, for what I knew would be the last time. The woman I'd loved for 6 years, the woman I'd planned to grow old with, reduced to a stranger by her own choices, and my response to them. "Emily," I said quietly, "I didn't destroy anything. I just refused to help you hide what you'd already destroyed." She stared at me for a long moment, then walked away without another word. 6 months later, our divorce was finalized. Emily moved to Albany, where she found work with a smaller marketing firm. Victor's real estate business collapsed after several of his investors pulled out, citing concerns about his personal conduct. Monica sent me a letter apologizing again for her role in the deception, but I never responded. Tyler still tends bar at Chez Laurent, and we still meet for drinks every Friday night. He never asks if I regret what I did, and I never volunteer the information. I've started dating again. A teacher named Sarah who thinks my story is sad but not shocking, who understands that sometimes good people do terrible things to each other, and that sometimes the only way out is through. I still live in Millbrook Falls, still work as a graphic designer, still drive the same truck and shop at the same stores. But I'm not the same man who received those photos on a November evening and felt his world collapse. I'm someone harder now. Someone who understands the difference between justice and revenge, and who's learned that sometimes they're the same thing. The last honest client I ever had was myself, and I gave him exactly what he deserved,